Across the park they come, and losing it. Arms there, pops up for the toy. Here comes Cheslin Colby. Colby bounces towards the fence. Beats one, still going. Cheslin Colby. Cheslin Colby. South Africa, the World Cup is theirs.
Rugby can deliver moments of pure magic. Moments that inspire. Moments that will remain with you for the rest of your life. And as my accent may have clued you in, Cheslin Colby dancing his way to the World Cup try line and Siya Kolisi lifting the World Cup are moments that will remain with me for the rest of mine. Much like 9-year-old me watched Nelson Mandela hand over the World Cup to Francois Pienaar in 1995, which was a pivotal moment in my youth and set me on course to fall in love with this great game. Rugby also has moments that come with an acquired taste, an acquired appreciation, and most importantly, an acquired understanding. And most of these moments of acquired understanding seem to happen around the ruck and breakdown. Most ruggers have acquired their understanding of the ruck over time. And whether watching or playing, most people don't get involved in rugby with a running understanding of the ruck. And as long as rugby has been around in its current form, it has been seen as a rite of passage to learn about the ruck through frustration and fragmented explanations from friends, coaches, commentators, pundits, and more recently, YouTubers. So I've been rucking my brain on the best way to describe the ruck. I thought about the image of a ruck, and that got me thinking of the times I participated in a ruck. I remember as a player I had to remember to roll away when I was the tackler, or when I was the ball carrier I had to make sure I placed the ball back to my team before the opposition could get their hands on it. Or as a cleaner I had to make sure that I enter the ruck through the gate. And then it occurred to me that how I mentally approached the ruck heavily dependent on the role I was going to play in the ruck, because different objectives and laws would apply and compete to affect my decision making. The time the ball spends in the ruck can vary significantly from team to team, game to game, and match situation to match situation. But for the most part, the battle for the ball is over within a few seconds, regardless of how long the ball spends in the ruck. And it's in these few seconds that the ball carrier, the tackler, the poacher, the cleaners, and the counter-ruckers decide the outcome of the ruck. Add the referee to this ensemble and you have a cast of protagonists that can make some viewers feel like they are working together to confuse and frustrate you. So that's when I came to the realization that the best way to learn about the ruck is not to learn about it as a whole, but rather from the viewpoint of each protagonist, before learning about the wider implications the ruck has on the game as a whole. Because this is how I learned about the ruck playing as a child. So hopefully I can put all of this into one easy to watch video for you. So sit back, relax, and hopefully I can help you learn something. Before we get into the detail, we need to cover some concepts and terminologies just to make your learning experience as straightforward as possible. First, a ruck is deemed to have formed when at least one player from each team is in contact over the ball on the ground while they are still on their feet. Understanding when the ruck has formed is important, as that has implications on what players are allowed and not allowed to do. Now, our protagonists are the ball carrier. This is the player in possession of the ball. The tackler, the player tackling the ball carrier. The poacher, this is the player from the defending team trying to gain possession of the ball with their hands. Cleaners, these are players from the attacking team tasked with clearing away would-be poachers and holding out counter-ruckers. And finally, counter-ruckers, players from the defending team are attempting to gain control of the ruck and hence possession of the ball by pushing opposing players off the ball. Now, for a lot of you, these concepts aren't new and you have a very good understanding of what they mean. But for a large portion of you, you may already start feeling confused. That's okay. These concepts will all start making more sense as the video progresses. Because the aim of this video is to take you from seeing a bunch of players piling in over the ball somehow popping out on either side and the referee either blowing up a penalty or allowing play to continue without you really understanding why and what happened, to being able to, at least in slow motion, be able to identify the different moving parts of a ruck and what the different players are trying to achieve. And then over time, if you watch rugby for long enough, you start to really just have a view of what a legal ruck should look like. And often instinctively, you can see that something was not right. And when the referee calls it up, you're not surprised, mostly. Being the ball carrier is probably the easiest part to play in the ruck. This is because you are already in possession of the ball and the opposing team needs to try and get it off you without being caught doing something illegal. Rugby law is on the ball carrier's side and the ruck is theirs and their team's to lose. This is evident when we watch a rugby game. The team entering the ruck in possession of the ball retain and recycle the ball for another phase of attack the vast majority of times. And this allows the team in possession to launch multiple phase attacks indefinitely until such time as they make a mistake, commit an infringement, or get stripped of possession by their opposition. And some might argue that it is the most distinguishing feature of rugby union and that it lies right at the heart of what makes the sport of rugby union. The ball carrier no longer has rights to the ball once they're off their feet. Once the ball carrier goes off their feet, they have to either release or place the ball immediately. Pop passes are also legal, as long as they are done immediately and before a ruck has formed. In most cases, the tackle player will place the ball back to their team in order to make it easier for their cleaners and scrum half to recycle the ball, and also to make it harder for potential poachers to be able to poach the ball. This is often the first thing taught to young and new rugby players. How to take a tackle, go to ground and place the ball back for their team to recycle. But sometimes the ball carrier can get isolated, meaning that there are no cleaners around to clear away potential poachers after the ball carrier has been taken to ground. In this situation, the tackled ball carrier may not hold onto the ball to stop the opposition from gaining control of the ball. If they are unable to place the ball immediately, they have to let go and allow the opposition to play the ball. If the referee deems that the ball carrier has failed to let go of the ball on the ground, he would penalise them for holding on and he would show this signal. And that's pretty much it for the ball carrier's participation in the ruck. Once they have gone to ground and placed the ball, they just have to brace and get ready for the pile of bodies. In order for the ruck to form, the ball carrier has to go to ground. And unless there is a sniper in the crowd, the only way for that to happen is for the ball carrier to get tackled. So, enter our tackler. The tackler's objective is obviously to bring the ball carrier to ground, or stop them from gaining ground, or drive them backwards in the process. Some tacklers might try and turn the ball carrier around in such a way that they can't, or find it hard to place the ball back for their team to easily recycle. This comes with risk though, as the ball carrier has two main legal requirements. First, they have to let go of the tackle player as soon as the tackle is complete. And then they have to roll out of the way so they do not hinder their opposition's access to the ball. Because rugby law is on the ball carrier's side, it is in the game's interest to allow the attacking team to recycle the ball through multiple phases. This creates a continuity of play which is better for the viewer and for teams to break down defending teams' defensive patterns. So turnovers in the ruck really need to be earned. So some tacklers can get themselves into trouble when they are more focused on turning the ball carrier away from their team. Because in this situation, often what happens is they then put themselves on the wrong side of the ball and they can get trapped, and this could lead to a penalty being awarded against them. The referee will be looking for the tackler to be rolling sideways towards either touchline or backwards towards their own try line. Rolling forwards towards the opposition's try line would still be viewed as the tackler hindering the opposition's ability to recycle the ball fairly and could still lead to a penalty. And if the referee deems that they have not rolled away sufficiently, they would award a penalty to the non-offending team and they would show this signal. Also, if the referee deems that the tackler did not let go, they would award a penalty to the non-offending team and they would show this signal. So let's do a recap of a legal ruck up until this point. Ball carrier gets tackled. Ball carrier places or lets go of ball immediately after they have gone to ground. and the tackler lets go of the ball carrier and rolls away immediately after the tackle is completed. Now enters the poacher. When the ball carrier gets taken to ground, the defending team has the right to play the ball provided they get a hold of it before the ruck has formed and they have entered the tackle area from an onside position. An onside position in this context means that the poacher has entered the tackle area from their team side and not from the opposition team side. This is the part of the breakdown where the ruck has not yet formed. If we relate back to the definition of a ruck is deemed to have formed when at least one player from each team are on their feet and in contact with each other over the ball while the ball is on the ground. If we relate this back to the situation we have in front of us, the only player from the attacking team in the tackle area at this point is the ball carrier, who themselves are on the ground. So the ruck forms when the cleaners arrive to either remove or hold out would-be poachers from the tackle area. This would signal the start of the ruck. And you'll find that generally this happens quite quickly, because teams whilst on attack like to have teammates run close to the ball carrier in order for them to act as cleaners and clear away would-be poachers quickly and form a ruck as soon as possible. Because once you form a ruck, you take away the defending team's rights to play the ball with their hands. And so you'll find that smart poachers don't target every ruck for a turnover. They lay in wait for a ball carrier to get isolated or poachers to be slow to the breakdown. Then they would pounce and get a hold of the ball before the ruck forms. And if they do so, the ball carrier has to let go of the ball or they risk getting penalised. In fact, when the poacher gets a legal hold of the ball before the ruck forms, the ball carrier is just as likely to get penalised for holding on as what the poacher is to get a clean turnover. So strong is the ball carrier's instincts to not relinquish the ball to the poacher in that split-second battle. If the referee deems that the poacher did not enter the breakdown area from an onside position, they would call offside and award a penalty to the non-offending team, and they would show this signal. And also, if the referee deems that the poacher played the ball after the ruck has formed, they would call hands on the ruck and award a penalty to the non-offending team. And then they would show this signal. So let's recap how a legal turnover happens. The ball carrier gets tackled and goes to ground. Once the ball carrier goes to ground, they have to either place or let go of the ball. At the same time, the tackler has to let go of the ball carrier and roll away. And also at the same time, the poacher is entering the breakdown area from an onside position and they play the ball before a ruck has formed. And from this point on, there are two likely outcomes. Either the poacher gets a clean turnover or the ball carrier gets penalised for holding on. Follow? Right, this is a good point for you to make sure you understand what we have covered so far. Don't be afraid to rewind and have another look. My analytics will love you for it and you will solidify your understanding, so it's a win-win. Now you should have a very good idea of what a legal turnover looks like in most situations. There is, however, a less likely scenario, which is still a very valid turnover scenario, and that is when the tackler turns poacher. For the tackler to turn poacher, they still have to let go of the ball carrier on the ground, but instead of rolling away, they have to get to their feet before they play the ball. They do, however, not have to re-enter the breakdown area from an onside position, as they are deemed to have entered the context legally as the tackler. And you'll often spot this when you see the tackler get to their feet and do this exaggerated action. This is to show the referee that they have completely let go of their tackle player on the ground before turning poacher. Because if they are to get penalised, this is usually the area where they get penalised. But if the referee deems that the tackler took too long to get to their feet, they can still get penalised for not rolling away. This is because it can still unfairly hinder the attacking team's cleaners from securing the ruck. So it's best for this to happen quickly and smoothly. Great, so those are all the key things you need to understand in regards to the poacher, the tackler and the ball carrier and what they're allowed and not allowed to do. Notice this is all before the ruck has even formed. In essence, a ruck forms when the cleaners make contact with a poacher or the counter ruckers in the tackle area. Their arrival marks a point at where players are no longer allowed to use their hands in the tackle area as a ruck has formed. Rugby is mainly concerned with safety when it comes to how the cleaners and the counter ruckers are to behave in the ruck. So the rules dictate how they are to enter the ruck and how they are to make contact and remove players off the ball safely. Cleaners have to enter the tackle area through the gate. Once a tackle has been made, all other players have to enter the tackle area through their own gate, meaning they have to come from behind the ball and directly from behind either the ball carrier or the tackler, whichever is closest to the gate enterer's own goal line. This helps stationary players already in the ruck to anticipate where their hit and force is going to come from. It is generally accepted that the players in the ruck are most vulnerable to injuries from sideways forces and hits coming from the side. Also, the cleaners must make a reasonable attempt to stay on their feet in the ruck, meaning they can't fall over the ball and seal it off, preventing the defending team from fairly contesting the ruck. So again, the cleaner has to enter the ruck through the gate and have to make a reasonable attempt to stay on their feet. If the referee deems that the cleaner entered through the side and not through the gate, they would award a penalty to the non-offending team and they would show this signal. And if the referee deems that one or more of the cleaners did not make a reasonable attempt to remain on their feet and thereby sealing the ball off from their opposition, the referee would award a penalty to the non-offending team and they would show this signal. If the cleaners have managed to enter the ruck through the gate and on their feet, they have to remove their opponent off the ball using their arms. They may not make contact with the head or neck area of their opponent. Another quick rehash. The ball carrier gets tackled, places or lets go of the ball when on the ground. Tackler lets go of the ball carrier and either immediately rolls away or gets to their feet to turn poacher. Poacher enters the ruck area from an onside position and attempts to poach the ball with their hands while still on their feet. Cleaners arrive in time though and they enter the tackle area through the gate. They remain on their feet and legally make contact with the poacher, thereby initiating the start of the ruck, and they clear the poacher off the ball. At this point, the vast majority of rucks have been decided. The cleaners have cleared away the poacher and they are holding firm and they have presented the ball back to their scrum after play. But the defending team has one more play up their sleeve. Enter the counter ruckers. The same rules apply to how counter ruckers are to enter the ruck and remove their opponent off the ball. They are to enter the ruck through the gate, stay on their feet, use their arms and not make contact with the head and neck area of their opponents. And if they manage to overpower their opponents and push them off the ball, they have won their team the right to play the ball through their scrum half or a player acting as their scrum half. Counter ruckers have to decide if it's worth committing to the ruck or joining the defensive line. So it's a bit of a waiting game from ruck to ruck. Because if you overcommit and don't turn the ball over, you can leave your defensive line short. So it's about committing players to the ruck at the right time. So if you can think of your counter ruckers as a collective hand, they would constantly be probing and prodding the ruck area with one or two fingers, probing for a soft spot, and then when they find it, they would form a collective fist to break through. The ruck is a cornerstone of rugby union, and understanding the ruck is key to winning a game. Professional teams spend a lot of time analysing the ruck as it is the contest that happens the most in the game. So gaining an upper hand on your opponent is very important. So naturally teams are always looking for new methods to gain an upper hand in the ruck. Some are seen as innovative and should be copied, while others are seen as negative and bad for the game. So rugby laws are always evolving to keep up with how the contest is evolving over time. And some laws are forgotten and need to be brought back to the referee's agenda. So that is rucks in a nutshell. Of course there are more laws, but they happen far between, and the laws, situations and concepts covered in this video cover the vast majority of ruck situations. If you understand this, then you would easily pick up the lesser laws just by watching the game, because you would already understand 99% of the rucks that occur. Please let me know what you guys think of the video. Did you find it informative? Is there anything that you would like clarified? And as always, please hit that like and subscribe button. Till next time, see ya.